In this video, we're gonna see how we can move from a 2D world to a 3D one. So we will start with LibreCAD and we will continue in Blender. So to do this passage, we need to set up some things here in our drawings in order to make our life easier in Blender. So I'm just gonna save this one and start with a new file. And if you're interested in Blender, you can see a video course dedicated to Blender in our channel, and also video guides and other courses concerning other 3D software. Now I've chosen Blender because Blender is open source, so you can all download it and install it and try this exercise that we're going to do in this lesson by yourself. So just go here, go to download and download Blender, and this is going to be real easy. But if you find any troubles, you can check the guide about downloading and installing Blender that again you will find in our channel. Now the first thing we can have a look here. Well, let me show you where we left off. This is lesson 11, but we're gonna go back here. Now in the previous video we saw how we can use these drawings right here and export them for graphic design and like creating painting and materials and have a better aesthetic of our sheet, or how we need to present our work, our project in 2D. So we use GIMP, we use Krita, we use Pixar, we use many different 2D software. Now in 3D, we need to adjust some things and prepare the drawing for the 3D world. Otherwise, it's going to be too messy and we're going to spend too much time on fixing and cleaning and a lot of other operations. So the better you work here in LibreCAD before, or any other CAD application, actually, you can also work with AutoCAD, the better will be then to work in 3D. So first of all, get rid of blocks. You don't really need these blocks, too complex. And second of all, try to work using meters, because Blender uses meters. So if you want to make your life easier, you can just scale these up, or I'm gonna leave it this way. This is centimeters right now because I want to show you then how you can adjust and fix that unit issue directly in Blender. So I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks in Blender just to start to create your 3D scene. So another really important thing is that everything should be polyline. Now polyline will be better to handle, and in some software when you create a polyline, it's going to be extruded already as a solid. Now this is not working at the moment in Blender, but we can then convert it to a solid, and again I'm going to show you how to do that. But first of all, let's get rid of things that we don't need, like again complex blocks, text. You can see here just even for the exporting in 2D, I'm getting rid of the images, and also we don't need all these annotations when we work in 3D, or yeah, sometimes in also graphic design. We just need like the essential parts of our architecture, and we don't need windows because we're gonna create windows in 3D, or perhaps we're gonna import them from websites that, or from uh, producers that we're gonna publish their 3D models. So windows, doors, we don't need that. We can leave here this furniture just to have a clue where like the sofa will be, or the table will be, or the toilet will be, and so on. But we can also, if we want, get rid of that as well. And so I'm gonna get rid of this layer. So you can see how easy it is when you work with layers. Now it's really easy to just work on the walls and make sure that everything is polyline. Every line is united into polylines. And to do that, now it's really easy because I've turned off all the other layers. I can just select this and just make it a polyline. So create polyline from existing segments. Now make sure that when you do this operation, let me just go back, Control Z, that you are in the good, not wrong layer. So I need to be here in walls. This green one here is walls. So again, I will select it and create a polyline and move on. But I can use these quick selections instead of like going one by one, so it's easier to select when you worked only with one layer. And let's create a polyline, select this one here, create a polyline, select this here, and just move on with the rest of your project. Now if I needed to do the same thing in the internal wall, again I'm gonna select this layer, make it visible, select these interior walls, and just go one by one and create these other polylines. Now, if there is some line missing, you just fix it here and make it a closed object. Okay. Now, another thing you want to make sure is that this is actually a closed shape. So if you go in the modify menu here and go in the properties, let's click on that. You can see this is not closed. So make sure that it's closed. But again, this will not make many difference in Blender. Perhaps in other software it will be. This one is already closed, and you just need to make a quick check if everything is nice and close. But I usually do that even if I need to work in Blender, because this gives me kind of a sense of solidity. So I know that that's kind of a closed shape, and this one didn't turn into a polyline. Let's see. Okay, now it works. And properties, this is already closed. Properties, this is closed. Properties, this is closed. Properties, this is closed. Okay, now we're ready to export. Now if you want, you can also export the section or the elevation views if you need to work, for example, on a facade or a front view of your model, and it's really important to know how the facade is structured. Well, I think that section views are really important as well, but in this case we're just going to work with the plan view. So I'm going to get rid also of this one here, and let's save it. Now you can either use the this was lesson 10 actually, so I want to save this in lesson 11. So you can either work with the XF sometimes in some software. For other 3D software you need to export again in SVG. So I'm going to export here in SVG, and you can see that I want to only export visible layers, not invisible layers. So when you save as or export in a SVG, you will be able to choose which layers you want to export or not. Otherwise, if you use the standard DXF, it's going to export everything. I'm just going to show you how it's going to look like. So I think that's it. So I'm just going to save it, and I call these 2D for 3D in Blender, so that I remember that this one goes for this is cleaned up for 3D. Okay. Now I'm just also gonna save it as the XF lesson 11. And well, if I wanna retrieve my work, just press Ctrl Z, because this was my lesson 10. So just gonna retrieve it like that. Now this one here actually has more objects hidden. You can see how many objects we have here. So well, when you export, like when you save a DXF, it's gonna import basically anything that you may not see, but it's there because it's in other layers. Okay, now also get rid of hatches and tags and dimensions, all that stuff. You don't need it. You may need it when you need to print here, or when you need to use graphic design, but you don't need it for 3D. So get rid of everything that is too complex.